Greetings, my fellow Philadelphia cyber thinkers. This is L3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful, swampy Mangrove, South Florida. And today's date is Friday, May 25th, 2018. Well. A few things have been happening around the news. I'll be mainly talking about a few things that happened today. But I know I'm just browsing through here my email, and of course Toshiba talking about Harvey Weinstein arrested on rape, criminal act, sex act charges, which is he actually turned himself in. I posted that yesterday on my Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus accounts. And Morgan Freeman apologizes in the wake of harassment accusations. That's interesting as well. And Trump pardons boxer's first ever black heavyweight champ. More fear here. 15 hurt after bomb rips through Indian restaurant. So, a couple things will be talked about, mainly shootings. One that has happened in Noblesville, Indiana, and one that occurred in Oklahoma City at a restaurant. You can look at both ends. But one thing for sure, you got the tyrannical aspects are going to ignore it. They don't believe if you're a good person that fight back, they use a firearm on an individual that's terrorizing people, you're still considered wicked towards their eyes. One of their main goals is to control everybody, have you live in fear, give up your natural born rights in the name of security, which is actually tyranny. Let's look at the laws too that occurred in Indiana and how this criminal suspect, took advantage of. And we're going to address one here too about sanctuary counties, gun rights sanctuary counties. Very cool, I would say, but it's really nice. Yeah, so I'm just chilling right now. I'm at Stash, located at 107 Southwest 2nd Avenue, which is adjacent with Revolution and America's Backyard, the 3J's group. It's a den/bar, pretty snazzy, a little bit trendy to an extent, but I appreciate it. Good folks here. Looks like someone has a birthday cake. Hey, all right. But yeah, so we're gonna be talking about this here, and one area for sure too. How come they're not talking about psychiatric drugs? It's been happening almost every shooting, with the students being ostracized, condemned, or on prescriptions, mind control. They don't argue about that, but they call you a nut job, a conspiracy theorist. You don't understand. Well, remember, AR-15 is just semi-automatic 22. But, just one of those things. Live in fear. Give up your rights. And the truth of the matter is, see you, my friend. All right. Give up your rights and bend over, be a number. Well, I'm sorry to let you those Dinkleberries know. That's null and void in my realm. Challenge me if you can. Try to deprive my rights. I want to see how tough you vampires are without any governmental assistance. So, this is from USA Today. Actually, a couple of them from USA Today. Indy Star, actually. Came from Indy Star. Noblesville, Indiana school shooting. New threat at Noblesville High School. And this is written by Vic Reich here and Ryan Martin and Chris Sickett. Let's just see this here. We will update this file continuously with the latest information on the Noble West Middle School shooting. It's called middle school. We'll call it a high school. Make up your minds, will ya? There's a press conference scheduled at 11 a.m. Indy Star will carry out live when it starts. News threat reported at Noblesville High School. The news threat has prompted another lockdown at Noblesville High School. Noblesville High School, the district send an email to parents. The parents can pick up the school in the middle school west students when the threat is clear. Noblesville schools sent an email. One adult, one teenager admitted to hospital. An adult and teenager were injured in Noblesville West Middle School shooting. IU health officials, Indiana University health officials confirmed in an email that both patients were admitted to the hospital. Indiana State Police Captain Dave Burston told media that the families of the injured have been notified. This surreal parent says Indiana school shooting. Chad Lancaster was an eighth grade daughter and a sixth grade son at a middle school, said he heard from his ex-wife in a phone call. Their daughter, hiding under a desk, called her mother. She told her to run. Lancaster has been trying to reach his son all morning, but has not heard back yet. This is surreal, Lancaster said. This is happening in high school, not here. So, confirmation, 2 injured in Noblesville Middle School shooting. Noblesville police confirmed that 2 people were injured in a shooting at Noblesville West Middle School. 2 victims have been taken to Methodist Hospital, and family notification of the victims has been made. Patrol Officer Brian Oram said in email no information is available on victim status. Officer have a suspect in custody. Governor officials respond. Elected officials have offered their prayers and support on Twitter, including Governor Eric Holcomb, who was an inaugural flight from Paris to Indianapolis. Speaker Bosma, Pro Temp Long, and I are monitoring the situation at Noblesville West Middle School from the air. On our return trip to Indianapolis from Europe, Holcomb said in a statement, approximately 100 state police officers have been made available to work with local responders and will offer all assistance needed. Our thoughts are with those affected by this horrible situation. Congresswoman Susan Brooke, Senator Todd Young, and Senator Joe Donnelly also tweeted they were monitoring the situation. My team and I are aware of the horrific shooting at Noblesville West Middle School, tweeted Brooks, who represents Noblesville in Congress. My prayers are with Noblesville community, especially those who are injured and those who witness an active shooter situation, something no one should ever have to go through, especially children. Police helicopters swarm over Noblesville West Middle School in Indiana. Roads near the middle school are slowly reopening. Even dozens of cars remain parked in a lot in grassy areas surrounding the school. Police helicopter continues circling overhead. Active shooter reported at Indiana Middle School, area middle school. Police and medical crews have been called to Noblesville West Middle School, north of Indianapolis, on reports of a school shooter. Shots were reported at the school about 9:20 a.m., said Jackie Chattery, receptionist for Noblesville School. One person was injured, but was not clear if that person has been injured by a gunshot. Chattery said also it was known if the victim is a student or an adult. All Noblesville schools are now in lockdown. The students are being bused in Noblesville High School. Once of all accounted for, Charles Chatterin said parents can pick up at Gate 5. The Carmel and Noblesville fire departments confirmed that the shooter was in custody. The extent of injuries was not yet known. A hectic scene erupted outside of the middle school as parents frantically searched for their children, and school officials worked to load students into buses. A roundabout south of the school, at Hog Road, and a East 196th Street has been shut down by police. Officers are allowing those buses to pass through. American Red Cross Indiana region is standing by to assist. Indy Star has several reporters heading to the scene. The story will be updated. So let's just check that out. We'll go to indystar.com, see what they have to say. I should have done that first before jumping the gun, but we'll just see what can I get. But it's always is what they know so far. Okay, so a lot of stuff here. The news conference, updated list on school shootings. So we'll just hit here what we know. Of course, community reactions. It's not gonna be celebrating or dancing in the streets or doing the twist all naked. Come on, that's pathetic. This is stupid questions. All right, this was Sarah Brown. This Noblesville Middle School shooting. Here's what we know. And now, Sarah Bowman and Emily Hopkins came out today. We'll continue to update as we learn more information, but below is what we know about the shooting at Noblesville West Middle High School Friday morning. 2 people have been injured. 2 victims have been injured in this morning's event. Mr. was taken to Riverview Health and then transferred to Riley Hospital in stable condition according to Riverview. They said the injuries are unknown at this time. Their injury was reported by Riverview Health. The hospital said in a tweet that another student remains at the hospital being treated for an ankle fracture, but it's unclear how that injury occurred. All family has been notified, so if your parents have not been contacted, then your child is safe. 1 adult has been taken to the IU's Health Methodist Hospital. Adult's condition as well as the cause of the injuries are unknown at this time. So live updates from Noblesville school shootings. Shooter in custody. He's a juvenile, so they can't really say any of his names. So the shooter reported to be a male student at the middle school is in custody, according to law enforcement. So technically, another person that may have a firearm illegally, and I will talk about that on a website called handgunlaws.us under the state of Indiana. I will be addressing those areas. The shooting took place at Noble West Middle School. Shooting took place inside Noble West Middle School, located at 1990 Hall Road. Students were evacuated by bus to Noblesville High School, located at 18111 Cumberland Road. There was roughly 4 miles between the 2 schools. Parents can pick up their students at the high school through Gate 5. The school will also have normal dismal at the end of the school day, according to the school superintendent. Of course, Lieutenant Barnes has limited information on the conference. We'll probably check that out too. And many roads of surrounding middle school were temporarily closed but are beginning to reopen. Large police presence remains around the school. Those who have responded include Noblesville Police, State Police, Hamilton County Sheriff's Department, as well as FBI officials and officials from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Why the hell they're going in there? Possibly another federalized police force, maybe federalized sheriff. I can say that allegedly, so I'm not just jumping the gun. I'll say that's a claim and address that in good faith. All Noblesville schools were put on lockdown following the shooting. Noblesville is a small city of about 6,000 people located north of Indianapolis in Hamilton County. Shots were reported at 9:06 a.m. Friday. Dozens of police cars were on the scene this morning. Police helicopter was also flying overhead. A parent of 2 middle school students described the situation as surreal. This is happening in high school, not here. To Chad Lancaster, his 8th grade daughter, called her mother while hiding under his desk. She told her to run. Another parent, Maria Rooney, said she was never expected something like this to happen at her son's school. Never thought this would happen, she said. Not in Noblesville. There was a second threat against Noblesville High School. A second threat prompted another lockdown at Noblesville High School, the district said in an email to parents. Parents can pick up high school in the West Middle School students when the threat is clear, Noblesville School said in an email. Around 11:10 a.m., police led some women in handcuffs from the high school into a police USV. Noblesville Police Chief Kevin Jowett said that the threat at the high school is not believed to be related to the middle school incident. Parents of students at Riverside Intermediate School and Riverside Junior High received a notice on Thursday about rumored threats about a student planning to shoot up the school tomorrow. School officials quickly determined that the student did not threaten the school, according to an email that was provided to Indy Star. Investigative process begins. Law enforcement officials said in a press conference that the middle school has been cleared as the investigative process will now begin. Officials said they will convene another press conference to update the situation at 2 p.m. Of course, you got politicians going to respond. And said the other thing too about Bosma. Like it says here, I'll just read it. What the heck? It says here, Senators Joe Donnelly and Todd Young, Representative Todd Wurtka, and State Representative Susan Brooks have responded on Twitter. Governor Eric Holcomb, currently en route for an economic development trip to Europe, released a statement. Speaker Bosma, Pro Temp Long, and I monitor the situation at Noblesville West Middle School from the air on our return trip to Indianapolis from Europe. Approximately 100 state police officers have been made available to work with local responders and will offer all assistance needed. Our thoughts are with all those affected by this horrible situation. Vice President Mike Pence released a statement via Twitter. Karen and I are praying for the victims of the terrible shooting in Indiana. To everyone in Noblesville community, you are on the hearts and our prayers. Thanks for the swift response by Hoosier law enforcement, he wrote. Indiana teachers issues a statement. The Indiana State Teachers Association also gives a statement in response to the incident. Our heart goes out to the students, educators, and families, community leaders, members of Noblesville who in the morning faced senseless act of gun violence. See, always use the term gun violence, but not violent crime. You know, like guns like walk around and they fly around like bats, right? At Noblesville, Middle School said statement apart, thoughts and prayers aren't enough to keep our students and educators safe. We need to keep dangerous weapons out of the hands of dangerous people. Well, like I said, the laws came in illegally, so I just figure how far this thing really goes. To be very frank. So I'm going to put that Indy Star website up there for sure. And you could read it for yourselves. And let me see here. Oh, interesting. One student, Noblesville, Indiana school shooting. One student detained, police chief said. By the same people, we will update this file continuously with the latest report. Noblesville West shooting this morning. A teacher and student were injured, and a male student was detained. During a morning press conference, Noblesville Police Chief Kevin Jowett has said a male student at the middle school has been detained in the shooting that injured an adult teacher and another student at Noblesville West Middle School. Okay, so school has been completely cleared. The investigation process has just begun. Jowett said a second threat that locked down Noble High School is not believed to be related to this incident. There's no information that's anything larger than a communicated threat, Jowett said. Indiana Middle School shooting, what we know, related, whereas Noblesville, Indiana. Watch the latest conference, press conference. The video did not appear above. You would report it. It's all like the same scenario here. So, yeah, it's all the same thing, ex-wife, this and that. So, it's going to be, a lot of it's going to be always updated. And of course, talked about thoughts and prayers aren't enough. When's enough's enough, it says here. Like it says here from the state teachers, thoughts and prayers aren't enough. So let's go to the second paragraph. Natural crisis has landed in our backyard. We have a responsibility to keep our kids safe from violence. It is unconscionable that we live in fear that one day their school could be next. When's enough's enough? Thoughts and prayers aren't enough to keep our students and education safe. We need to keep dangerous weapons out of the hands of dangerous people. We now know that this is up to communities, families, activists, educators, and students themselves to stand up and demand those who are trusted with protecting them to do their jobs. Who are trusted with protecting them to do their jobs. Interesting. So, just wonder about who they're going to trust for this. Vice President gun response to Indiana shooting. Elected officials have offered their prayers to support Twitter. Vice President Pence released a statement to his home state to everyone in the Noblesville community. You are on the hearts and our prayers with the swift response by the usual law enforcement and first responders. So right now, according to this, I'm not really going to release the person's name because he's a juvenile. But one thing we got to look at is how deep does this thing go? Ask the question. That is one legitimate question. It is very disturbing, to be frank. I'm not going to argue about that at all. But of course, they want to use that solution. It's the guns, it's the guns, it's the guns. Not the hate. So, I'm going to leave this article here about one student being detained. Really for yourself, go on with Indy Star and look at more for latest updates. One of the interesting things about Indiana, some of their gun laws, if you look at right down here, place off limits even with a permit or license. This is from handgunslaw.us under the state of Indiana, PDF format. It's off limits in or on school property, which is Indiana Code 35-47-9-2. However, the vehicle, you put it in your vehicle, and it's showing right here for the IC 35. Allow carry farm by person permitted for transporting the person to or from school or school function. Leave it in your vehicle. But you can't have it on the property. It tells you everything here about school property. So we give you a whole rundown here about school property. You have to have a resource officer, which are exceptions considered a governmental entity. But technically, it's still considered to be a firearm-free zone as well. But one thing for sure, it was a quick response. No one was serious. No one was deceased, so that was a good thing. You gotta be thankful for that. It could be a lot worse, but the shootings are happening constantly. So we have to look at, probably have to question if they're gonna release the suspect's name. What is his past history? These patterns are going on for a long time with these shootings at the schools, at the secondary schools, colleges, etc. A lot more firearm-free zones. These folks are like the possible insurance candidates. Yet these suspects are under psychiatric drugs, psychotropic drugs, or prescriptions. How many of them have this person been ostracized, condemned? We don't know yet, because we have to wait for the other reports to come out. If you folks want to send me stuff on the update, that would be greatly appreciated. But of course, one thing for sure, you're going to have the fanatics from the tyrannical side that want government dependency and protecting them. And they do, and Indiana does have a sovereign immunity tort liability law as well. So technically, public employees are not liable for certain actions. That means the police aren't obligated to protect you as an individual. I say that in good faith. However, they did what they had to do to get this resolved. So you gotta just find out how deep this thing goes, and we can't focus on face value and look at the fine print. But I definitely look at these laws on school property, and so it is off limits unless you're an officer, under some resource officer or police officer within the governmental entity or delegate. So that's one thing you have to look at. So I'm definitely going to leave this on there as well, so you folks can know. You can read this along. Hey, share information. I deeply appreciate it. and hope for the best for everyone. But the truth of the matter is, like I said, how much hatred this student has, the suspect. That's the question. So we have to look at all these areas before we really jump to conclusions. And what I'm going to be doing too, I'm definitely going to add that one video by TeknoAXE for Second Amendment News. What was interesting about that is they Mike Adams did really good commentary about the truth about the Santa Fe shooting in Texas, and it has a lot of merit behind it. So I'm definitely going to add that to the memo. You folks could see this and judge it for yourselves. And there goes a bright line. Oh, sorry about that. And yeah, so we definitely gotta look at those areas and in good faith. And wow, this looks like I have a signal drop. Well, that's okay. But yeah, definitely for sure gonna make this thing happen. Alright, next one here. Talk about here the elephant in the room. Why isn't anyone talking about the link between psychiatric medications and mass shootings? It's by Ethan Huff. It's Natural News, and this episode is called Second Amendment News. And it came out Tuesday, so it has an interesting Brittle article here. The March for Our Lives gun grabbers have convinced themselves that the only way to stop mass shootings in the United States is to prohibit law-abiding Americans from owning firearms. But what these brainwashed leftists fail or willfully refuse to acknowledge the fact that almost every major shooting incident that's occurred in recent years is directly tied to the perpetrator's use of mind-altering pharmaceuticals. We now know, for example, that accused Parkland shooter Nicholas Cruz had been taking psychiatric prescription prior to the allegedly shooting up Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. We also know that the authorities have been made privy to Cruz's drug-associated mental problems prior to the incident, but proceeded to do nothing to address them. And I have talked about that in my past episodes. Please look. You don't have to hear my voice. You can read the archives. It has a lot of hardcore information on there. The investigator from Florida Department of Children and Family discovered back in 2016 that Cruz, who had just turned 18 at the time, had been talking on Snapchat about cutting himself, as well as trying to find help obtaining a firearm. This investigator reportedly told MSNBC News that Cruz clearly stated that he plans to go out and buy a gun, but that it was unknown what he's buying the gun for. Even Cruz's own mother admitted to authorities during the investigation that her son had behavioral problems suggestive of the fact that he had no business purchasing a firearm. She reportedly told investigators that Nicholas owned an air gun that she would take away from him when he did not follow the rules about the shooting only at backyard targets. To quote the New York Times, despite all this and the fact that Cruz was known to be a mind-altering behavioral drug, the department declared Cruz to be low risk and proceeded to close his case within 2 months of it being open. This blatant failure to properly assess the situation is what many experts now believe resulted in the tragedy. Had Cruz been committed under existing gun laws, he would have been unable to legally buy a gun carried out of his murderous fantasies, wrote Dr. Peter Bergen in an article that was published by GreenMedInfo.com. There's a quote here. Alternatively, if he had been carefully and safely removed from the psychiatric drugs while receiving good psychosocial therapy, his escalating violence impulses might have abated. Instead, he was left on his own to face the death of his mother and his expulsion from school, where his murderous impulses were fueled by drugs. Guns aren't the problem. Mind-altering drugs are the problem. The drugs Cruz was taking for attention, defective hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, have been connected to mass shootings in the past. One example of this was a 15-year-old Memon, who reportedly shot and killed a fellow middle school student while taking the drug Zoloft for both ADHD and depression. More well known is the Columbine shooting in Colorado, one of the shooters of which was also on Zoloft, followed by another drug known as Luvox. Prozac is another common ADHD drug, has repeatedly been issued with acts of violence. A 16-year-old boy named Jeff Wise, who was taking the drug, shot his grandfather's girlfriend, and more than a dozen of his fellow students in Red Lake, Minnesota. This is just one of many similar incidences, all involving Prozac, Zoloft, Ritalin, and or a variety of other brain-bending pharmaceuticals commonly prescribed for depression and ADHD. Not only do psychiatric drugs add to the risk of violence, but psychiatric treatments lose the various authorities and their families believing that the patient is now under control and the less of a risk warns Dr. Reagan. Even the patient may think drugs are helping and continue to make them right up to the moment of violence. Read chemicalviolence.com for more details on the dangers of psychiatric drugs. And there's a couple of sites here as well. And like I say, it's a big pattern. It's been happening for all this time. You could say more than 20 years plus, minimum 20 years plus. And how come the vultures aren't talking about that? Yeah, I call them Orwellian vampires, Orwellian snowflakes and saps. How come we're not addressing this? So, you gotta go witch hunting. You're putting yourself on a pedestal of ignorance. Plain and simple. And these firearm free zones don't really work as well. Pattern's been going on for a very long time. Don't punish me for trying to censure my natural born rights. And you become the enemy of liberty or freedom. Alright, well here's some interesting good news here. And it came out today. It says his civilian kills gunman after shooting at Oklahoma restaurant. Oklahoma City, a young man who opened fire at Oklahoma City restaurant, leaving 2 people with gunshot wounds and 2 others hurt. But in the ensuing chaos, that was then shot dead by a handgun carrying civilian in the parking lot. Police said that they don't know what prompted the shooting around 6:30 p.m. Thursday at Louis on Lake Hefner, but they don't believe it was an act of terrorism. We have no reason to believe this is a terror type of incident, said Captain Bill Matthews, an Oklahoma City Police Department spokesman. He said about 100 witnesses are being questioned. A woman and a female juvenile recovery Friday at a hospital after surgery for gunshot wounds and are going to survive. Matthews said a man suffered from a broken arm while trying to escape the shooting, and police said a 4th victim suffered a minor injury, but it wasn't clear how the injury occurred. Dennis Wills from Hennessy told reporters outside the hospital that the woman and girl who were shot are his daughter and granddaughter. Will and his daughter called him after the shooting and said they had been shot while entering the restaurant for a birthday dinner for another of her daughters. The girl was not injured. Authorities have not identified any of the injured patrons. Will said he doesn't know if his daughters knew the shooter, but he would like to thank the passerby who authorities say shot and killed the gunman as he left the restaurant. Late Thursday, Matthews described the gunman as an 18-20-year-old white man, but that police had not yet identified him. In April, a restaurant patron wrestled an assault rifle away from a gunman at a Waffle House in Nashville, Tennessee. 4 people were killed in that shooting. Police have said It would have been far more casualties if it weren't for the Patriots' quick thinking. Correct that the birthday celebration was for a sister of a girl who was shot, not for the girl shot girl. So that's, you have to say, it's a positive news. You got people fighting back, and we hit another one here. This is one by Associated Press, and this one here is from USA Today. And it says a two-armed citizens killed shooter who opened fire in the Oklahoma restaurant, Ashley May. And it says right here, a gunman opened fire inside Oklahoma City restaurant, leading two bystanders shooting him dead in the parking lot. Oklahoma City police said gunman Alexander Diggleman, who walked into Louis Grill and Bar on the east side of Lake Hefner, Oklahoma City, around 6:30 p.m. local time Thursday, shot three people: mom, Natalie Giles, 39, her 12-year-old daughter, and another child. Another person fell and broke his arm during the incident, police said. A bystander with a pistol confronted the shooter outside the restaurant and fatally shot him, police tweeted Thursday night. Friday morning, police updated that statement to say two people, Juan Carlos Nazario, 35, and Brian Brittle, 39, shot the gunman. When the police arrived, the gunman was dead. The shooter was the only person who died in the incident. His identity was not confirmed as of Friday morning, and his motives was unknown. The police said the incident is under investigation. Moore, a 29-year-old, saved numerous lives during Waffle House police shooting said. And of course, it says here, Waffle House hero James Shaw Jr., who grabbed the gun, may get an invitation to the White House. Gun debate isn't about what you think. So, Ashley May, that's good news. Like I said, people have duties, and they fulfilled a moral obligation, protect the innocent. I said the police can't be everywhere, and when I say technically the police aren't obligated to protect the individual under the Sovereign Immunity Tort Liability Act, it's never ever condemning the police as a whole. There's some good people in these departments or institutions. Of course, you got your rogue agents as well. I'm not going to argue about that. But the truth of the matter is, they are human beings. You got to look at everything in the human element. They can't be everywhere. They got a lot on their plate as it is. That's why armed individuals, honorable individuals, citizens, law-abiding citizens, or don't matter, natural-born persons, fulfilled their obligations. And you got to give them homage for that. And you'd be very surprised when you stop watching the mainstream media. You learn a lot more what really goes on in the real world. So thumbs up to them for what they achieved. And this is why I'm going to add multiple other topics, but I mainly want to focus on these two sides. Fear is not the answer. Actions are. When you do something right, people will notice that and keep things in mind and inspire others to do the same. Blessings to them and to the victims that will recover. All right, one more thing here. Came out a couple days ago? Yeah, a couple days ago, I would say. It's by Michael Bolden, right? Yeah, Michael Bolden, founder of the 10th Amendment Center. Talks about most recent gun rights, sanctuary counties are anything but. Today I talked with an NBC reporter about efforts to pass Second Amendment resolutions in border cities and counties and towns. Unfortunately for gun rights, none of them being reported on do what most supporters or pundits have been telling you they do. You do. Little hiccups there. Sorry about that. Almost all coverage I found on the effort, whether through blogs or mainstream media, has claimed resolutions recently passed in some Illinois localities created gun sanctuary counties. They don't. USA Today, SHTFplan.com, Associated Press, CNN, Fox News, Bear Arms, and many others have all referred to these efforts as a gun sanctuary resolutions. They are telling people that resolutions passed are similar in practice and strategy as immigration sanctuary cities. Brian Kibler, top prosecutor of Effingham County, Illinois, told Fox News that the resolution passed aren't much different from cities such as Chicago, which refuse to cooperate with federal immigration authorities. But he's wrong. They're quite different in fact. They're not even close. As the NBC reporter was doing research for the story, he was told that the effort originated in Oregon back in 2013. And someone told him that the 10th Amendment Center was a source for help in the effort there and was focused on passing Second Amendment preservation ordinances. Since this didn't come across to me as true, I decided to call him to chat about it. First, I want to make clear that the TAC was not involved in the Oregon effort and were not involved in the Illinois effort either. I suggested that the person in Oregon may have been trying to say that they were inspired by our work or motivated to model their effort after our recommended local Second Amendment preservation ordinance model legislation. However, the measures being passed in both Oregon and Illinois are far different than what we've urged localities to pass. The difference may appear to be technical, but it's actually quite significant. Directive versus statement. Our model here at TAC declares all federal gun laws unconstitutional. All federal acts, laws, orders, rules, regulations regarding firearms, firearm accessories, and ammunition are a violation of the Second Amendment. Based on this declaration, it bans a locality from helping enforce or effectuate any such violations. No agent, employee, or official of the county, city, town, or any corporation providing services to the county, city, town shall provide material support to participate in any way with the implementation of federal acts, orders, rules, or regulations in violation of the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. A short passage, this ordinance immediately changes how local measures are used and bans all government agencies, including police, from participating in enforcement from any federal gun measures. It's a directive of law enforcement, not a statement of principle or request. On the other hand, the so-called gun rights sanctuary resolutions passed in Effingham County includes no immediate directive for law enforcement to stop doing anything whatsoever. Instead, the resolution issues two demands. First, the Illinois General Assembly to cease further actions restricting the right of people to keep and bear arms. Second, the governor to veto all legislation that restricts the right of people to keep and bear arms. After the demands comes an attempt at a directive, but it includes a caveat so big it renders the solution ineffective in practice. If the government of the state of Illinois shall infringe upon any inalienable rights granted by the Second Amendment, Effingham County shall become a sanctuary county for all firearms unconstitutionally prohibited by the state government of the state of Illinois. Is that Effingham County will prohibit its employees from enforcing the unconstitutional act of the state government. Emphasis added. Note that the resolution doesn't define what is constitutionally prohibited or what constitutes an unconstitutional action. Somebody would have to make that determination before the county could take any action. In short, Effingham resolution doesn't address federal gun laws in any way and is waiting for determination of unconstitutionality before any enforcement of state laws that unconstitutionally prohibits firearms. Huber admitted to USA Today that the action is largely symbolic, said Sheriff Mahon told Effingham Daily News that passage would not dictate how his office enforced the laws. In other words, it has no practical effect at all. Similar resolutions have passed in a handful of other Illinois counties, none with significant difference. Compare these immigration sanctuary cities might be an even bigger stretch. And I think when we consider you talk about here about the sanctuary, immigration sanctuaries, using the San Francisco Sanctuary City Ordinance as an example to see is either to see stark difference in the approach between immigration sanctuary cities and the so-called gun rights sanctuary cities being passed in Illinois and elsewhere. First passed in 1989, last amended in 2016, SM Administration Code 12H-12I takes an approach completely opposite of that Effingham County. Instead of waiting for a determination that an act is unconstitutional and then ending enforcement of that act, San Francisco immediately ends enforcement assistance for most federal immigration laws and will only help if there is a determination that they're required to do so. It reads in part, no department, agency, commission, officer, or employee of the City and County of San Francisco shall use city funds and resources to assist the enforcement of federal immigration laws, or to gather and disseminate information regarding the status of individuals or any such personal information defined in Chapter 12I in the City and County of San Francisco, unless such assistance is required by federal or state statute, regulation, or court decision. This prohibition is in effect right now in San Francisco and includes, but not is limited to, assisting or cooperating in one's official capacity with any investigation, detention, or arrest procedures, public or counseling conducted by the federal agency charged with the enforcement of the federal immigration law and relating to alleged violations of the civil provisions of the federal immigration law, except as permitted under Administrative Code Section 12I.3. There is no similar prohibition in effect at Abraham County at all. But while this effort to create sanctuary cities in Illinois, create gun sanctuary cities in Illinois, was inspired by efforts in Oregon, localities passing resolutions that are just ineffective in practice. Take Coos County, for example, where the Second Amendment Preservation Ordinance was passed early in 2015 after a series of whereas clause, merely statements or intent findings without any legal effect, and enacting clauses that start with therefore or ordained, provide no directive to end enforcement of any gun law, state or federal. It reads in part. So this is interesting here. So you gotta really let's just continue on. In any regulation of the right to keep and bear arms or ancillary firearm rights that violate the 2nd, 9th, 10th, or 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution of the United States of America, or Article 1, Sections 27 and 33 of the Constitution of the State of Oregon, as articulated herein, shall be regarded by the people on and Coos County as unconstitutional, a transgression of the supreme law of the land and the spirits of liberty, and therefore, by necessity, void ab initio, so it's null and void. In short, the ordinance voters passed says that if regulations of the right to keep and bear arms is deemed a violation of the Constitution, the people of Coos County will regard it as unconstitutional. On its own, this does absolutely nothing. Ordinance that includes directive or sorts to end enforcement of gun laws. Coos County government will not authorize or appropriate governmental funds, resources, employees, agencies, contractors, buildings, detention centers, or offices for the purpose of enforcing an element of such acts. But the phrase such acts refers to those in the previous sections that have been deemed unconstitutional. With this additional clause, the ordinance is saying if the gun regulation is deemed a violation of the Constitution, the people of Coos County will regard it as unconstitutional, and the county government won't help enforce it. The ordinance does allow for the sheriff to make that constitutional determination, but without an additional step. No enforcement ends or in practice. Similar ordinances were passed in Wheeler, Wallula, and Curry counties will be on the ballot in Columbia and Calumet counties this fall. Weaker resolutions without any attempt to end enforcement of anything were passed in Douglas, Lynn, Yarmouth, and Baker County. So it's always got to be how to better it. So it's always a foot in the door, but better it from there. It's like planting a seed, not no tree, right? Strategy and backbone. While in San Francisco and many other cities immediately withdrew resources from the enforcement of federal immigration laws and continue to do so, only to change course if required to otherwise. Ivigam, Coos, and other counties are going the opposite direction on guns. They're changing absolutely nothing today. They're not ending any enforcement right now. They're waiting to be told that they can at some undetermined point in the future. However, they can do something right now if they simply change the approach to use of resolutions and ordinances. Instead of including a clause saying they'll stop enforcement if an act is determined to be unconstitutional, they can follow the approach in the TeknoAXE's model. Second Amendment Preservation Ordinance by banning assistance to federal gun measures immediately. So don't sugarcoat it. Be hardcore. That's what Michael Bolden is saying here. The strategy for opting out without first asking is based on James Madison's advice in Federalist Papers 46 that states that individuals should use a refusal to cooperate with officers of the Union as an effective way to oppose and end them. This strategy is also has also been upheld repeatedly by the Supreme Court of an anti-commandeering doctrine based on a series of 5 landmark cases from 1842 to 2018. This strategy isn't just sound as far as the constitutional principle or court precedents are concerned, it's extremely effective as well. If immigration sanctuary cities weren't having any effect undermining federal immigration enforcement, no one would be complaining about them or trying to stop them. They'd be laughed off as a grandstand political efforts to whip up donations and votes. And as Judge Napolitano put in 2014, doing the same on gun control measures will make them nearly impossible to enforce as well. If gun rights supporters are serious about ending enforcement of gun laws, they should work on legislative efforts to end enforcement. Heard in Kansas already took that step. In 2013, and other counties in the cities can do the same. So, if you're gonna make these resolutions, don't soften them or be hardcore. That's the bottom line. And it can be done. And if you study prohibition of alcohol, the 10th Amendment says there's a video on that. Just look up 10th Amendment Center on Prohibition. When it became a constitutional amendment, Maryland was the first state to say no, and everyone else followed through, and they got repealed in 1933. Plain and simple. One thing for sure, nothing's impossible when it comes to the political realm. Come to your natural born rights. Let them know it's null and void. That's how I look at it. If the more you know, the more you implement it, the less you fear. The truth of the matter is, my friends, the government needs us more we need them, regardless of where you reside. Ooh, yeah, and that is it. I thank everyone for listening, but feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you sent me something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please address the correspondence with Decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Minds.com, FutureNet.club, Patreon.com/local 3 eyes. You're going to be a donor. That'd be awesome. You can hit me at Gab, gab.ai, or yours.org. Plus, I'm going to check out Buddy List. I'm looking into that as well, and other video sites, channels also. So I'm just doing my little winging it here and there, and that would be great. In addition, you can email me at lookup3@gmail.com, or to you cryptid ones, especially with a Proton Mail account, you get me at LookYLuck03@protonmail.com. Alright, my friends, once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.